Good day, grade 11s. Today we are going to be looking at perfect markets, also known as perfectly competitive markets. We will be using concepts and knowledge that you have learned from your demand and supply relationships, and also briefly mentioning price elasticity. We will additionally look at all the characteristics of a perfect market and how to determine the price in a perfectly competitive market. Before we define what a perfect market is, it is important that we understand and define what a market is and what a market structure is. A market is defined as the mechanism that brings together our buyers, which represents our demand, and our sellers, which represents our supply. And a market exists due to the interaction between our demand and our supply. A market structure is defined as the characteristics of a market that influences its performance. It refers to the organizational characteristics of a market, and this includes things like the number of firms that compete in the market, the degree of competition among them, the type of product they sell, the barriers to entry and exit, and also the level of control that they have over the prices. Now that we have defined market and market structure, we can identify two types of market structures, namely perfect markets and imperfect markets. Under imperfect markets, you will find monopolies, oligopolies, and monopolistic competition. All of these things we will look at in another lesson, but today we are focusing on perfect markets. And a market is perfectly competitive when there is no excessive control or power in the hands of either buyers or sellers. And in the next slide, we will take a closer look at what would happen if the buyers were able to exert pressure on the sellers. In a competitive market, sellers will struggle to survive if buyers are able to exert pressure on them, because it means that buyers have bargaining power and can negotiate lower prices. This can lead to a decrease in the seller's profit margins, and if the sellers are unable to lower their costs or increase their efficiency, they may struggle to cover the costs and stay in business. For example, if there are multiple sellers in a market, and buyers have the ability to easily compare their prices and the quality, then the sellers are under the pressure to offer competitive prices and still give high quality products in order to attract the buyers. And if a particular seller cannot meet these demands, then the buyer will have to turn to other sellers, and the seller may struggle to generate enough revenue to cover all the costs and expenses of their business. So if we look at this nice little summary over here, it shows you all the steps that would happen if the buyer exerted pressure on the seller. Let's make use of a farmer's market analogy to help you understand the concept of a perfect market and kind of introduce you to the topic of what a perfectly competitive market is and what it looks like. Let's say that there's this large farmer's market happening on the weekend. And at this farmer's market, there are a lot of vendors and a lot of people who are selling the same type of fruit or vegetable. Let's say that this fruit is an apple. And each vendor is selling a similar quality apple. There are no barriers to enter or exit for any new vendor who wants to come along and sell their apples. This means that you can sell apples, your mom can sell apples, your friend can sell apples, your cousin can sell apples. Anybody can come and sell their apples if they want, and anybody can leave at any time that they want to. The products that are sold are all homogeneous. Homogeneous means that they are similar or of the same kind. And as a result, the price of the apple is determined solely by the supply and demand, with no vendor, no person having the power to influence the price. So this means we need to ask ourselves, how many people are selling and how many people are buying? Now let's take a look at the characteristics of a perfect market. The first one we look at is the number of sellers. This means we need to ask ourselves how many people are buying and how many people are selling in this market. In a perfect market, there are so many buyers and sellers that neither of them have the ability to influence the market or the market price in their individual capacity. The second one we look at is the nature of the product. As we've already mentioned, in a perfect market, homogeneous products are sold, and homogeneous means identical, similar, or of the same kind. This means that there is no difference regarding the packaging, the quality, or the appearance of the product. Now ask yourself this question. How does this make you feel as a customer, knowing that wherever you go, this product will have the same appearance, the same packaging, and the same quality? You would think that this gives the customer some assurance that wherever I go, irrespective of the seller, The quality will be the same, the packaging will be the same, and the appearance will also be the same. The next characteristic that we look at is the entrance and exit of sellers. This answers the question, how easy or how hard is it to enter and exit this market? In a perfect market, anybody can enter and anybody can exit because of the low to no barriers that exist in this market. Anybody who wants to potentially enter this market is not prevented due to legal, technological, or financial barriers. If somebody were to leave the market would not be compromised because there are so many other sellers who are selling the same good. The next one we look at is the control over the price. Any firm in a perfect market will be considered a price taker. Now, a price taker must accept the market price for its product or service, and they have no power, no ability to influence or set the market price. If you want to remember what a price taker is, just remember that they take the price as it is. The next characteristic that we look at is market information. Information in a perfect market is considered perfect. This means that every supplier, every seller has access to the same kind and amount of information. This information pertains to how to produce the good, what is the cost of the good, the availability of the good, and even the price of the good. So this means that even if somebody is new to the market, they won't have to worry about learning new, complicated techniques because everything is out there. They have access to all the information they would need to know, and they don't have to worry about figuring anything out on their own. The next thing we look at is the demand curve. If you remember correctly, you will remember that you did price elasticity. And in price elasticity, you learned about all the different types of elasticity. The demand curve is perfectly elastic in a perfect market. This means that the demand is so sensitive to the price that consumers will completely stop buying that product if the price increases even slightly. So the demand curve will be a horizontal slope, as you can see in the picture. And the price is then determined by the demand and supply curve. And this will make more sense as we go on and we start explaining how we determine price in a perfect market. The next characteristic that we look at is the profit and loss situation. In the short run, a perfect competitor can make a normal profit, can make economic profit, or even an economic loss. But in the long run, they can only make normal profit. The next one we look at is the decision making. In a perfect market, there is no mutual dependence. This means that they do not rely on each other for their success or for their survival. The decision in one firm does not affect the decision in the other. There's so many producers that it would be impossible to have mutual dependence. The next characteristic that we look at is collusion. Now, collusion is considered to be an illegal and unethical act or practice whereby two or more firms decide to work together to limit and restrict the competition in order to gain an unfair advantage in the market. Now, collusion usually takes the form of price fixing, output restrictions, market sharing, and much, much more. But the most common form of collusion is price fixing. Now, price fixing is where the firms decide to set the prices at a certain level instead of competing on the price. And this usually leads to the consumer paying a much higher price. It leads to them producing less and less and less. And it usually leads to a lower quality of the product or service being provided. Now, in a perfect market, collusion is simply impossible because there are so many sellers who are offering this product that they do not have the opportunity to fix their prices. So collusion is impossible in perfect markets. The next thing we look at is efficiency. Now, we have two types of efficiency. We have productive efficiency and we have allocative efficiency. Productive efficiency is the production methods that will be most cost effective without wasting your resources. And allocative efficiency occurs when the firm produces the optimum quantity of goods and services desired by the consumers. Now, just a few examples of some markets or some places, some industries that operate under a perfect market in South Africa. We have our agricultural markets, our stock markets like the JSE, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and online retail markets like Takealot and Superbalist. These are just some very few examples of perfect markets in South Africa. Now that we have explained all the characteristics of a perfect market, use the knowledge and information that you have gained throughout this lesson to help you answer this enrichment question to get you thinking a little deeper and a little further. Ask yourself, why do you think it is so hard to find markets that perfectly meet all the conditions/characteristics of a perfect market? To help you answer this question, go through all the characteristics of a perfect market and see how realistic they are to real-world situations and examples in real life and answer this question. Pause the video, do a little research, and come back. So we've been emphasizing the whole time that there's no seller influence over the price and that the price is formulated through the market forces of demand and supply. What does that mean? What does it entail? We'll go a little further into it, but first let's look at these 3 points. Price is determined by the forces of demand and supply. If you had to look at a graph, we know the point at which demand and supply intersect is called equilibrium. This is something you learned in grade 9. It is very, very simple to understand, and this is something that we also re-emphasized when you did demand and supply relationships. But we know what the price is at the point of equilibrium, and how it changes is completely dependent on demand and supply. To determine the market price for a firm under perfect competition, you need to draw these 2 graphs next to each other. On the left, we have the graph labeled the industry/market, and on the right, we have the graph labeled the individual producer/business. The industry will show the interaction of demand and supply, which is our market forces, and the market forces are in equilibrium at the point of intersection of the demand and supply curves, so that is at E1. At equilibrium, the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied, and this will determine the market price. Now take a look at the individual producer/business. One producer will not be able to influence the market price, and they will have to accept the market price because they are price takers. This is at P1. And because this is the only price the producer can charge, the demand curve for the producer is a straight line drawn at P1 because they are perfectly elastic. So there you have it, perfect markets, a very simple, straightforward and easy topic to understand. But to sum it up, remember that perfect competition occurs in a market structure with a large number of participants who all have access to all the required information because it is perfect, and they are all price takers because they take the price as it is. The price is determined solely by demand and supply, and a perfect market is a market where no single buyer or seller has a noticeable influence on the price of a good. I hope you enjoyed Perfect Markets.